Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your guys' host, SchuZ Schumaker. So, obviously, it's a very, very, very late night show tonight. I have plans for a guest. We're trying to get him on, but schedules could not quite align tonight. So, he will be back on the show hopefully sometime next week. I will announce that and who that guest is. But I will be having a guest on tomorrow night's show who will be announced tomorrow. So, make sure to tune in tomorrow. It will actually be Bruce Carrington. So, make sure to tune in for tomorrow night's show. It will be at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But we got a social show to get into tonight. Lots of stuff to get into tonight, including a recap of what went down with the cards last weekend, or this past week, I should say, and then some boxing news as well. So make sure to tune in. I'll be getting into all those things on today's show. With that being said, though, if you guys have any comments or questions or topics you guys want me to discuss, leave it in the chat. Your comment will come up on the show, and I will address that as we go throughout the show. So let's hop right into it, though. I'm going to start off with the fight card that went down with Golden Boy in Chicago this past weekend. And let me start off with this. Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, the whole crew out there with Golden Boy. What a card that was. I said all week that I was excited for the card. I thought it was going to be a very good card, underrated card as well, and it certainly did deliver. And the cool thing is that we look at a few Golden Boy cards this year. They've had a lot of bangers in terms of high action, high pace fights that have been very entertaining. And this weekend, once again, delivered both with the co and the main event. So let's break those down real quickly. I'm going to start off with the main event. Oscar Duarte beats Kenneth Sims Jr. in Chicago. The fight cards read this: 114-114 on one of them, 115-113 the other, and 116-112 on the other card. Those are all going towards Oscar Duarte. He is the WBA super lightweight title eliminator fight between two top 10 guys. All right, I want to break this fight down. I'm going to start off with Kenny Sims Jr. And the reason I say this is because obviously no, he did not win that fight, but I want to make this very clear. Both guys were very impressive in that fight. Very entertaining fight. And I feel like both guys honestly had one of their career best performances in that. And that's weird to say. When you're Kenneth Sims Jr. and you're coming off of a loss, how do you say it's one of your best performances? But Oscar Duarte is one heck of an opponent. And he went out there. I think Kenneth Sims Jr. had a great performance. It just was not good enough to compare with Oscar Duarte. And that's the way I really look at it. I personally had the fight listed as a draw, but I understand it. Oscar Duarte winning it, I have no problem with that whatsoever. It was a good fight, and there was so many rounds that were so close where if you gave Oscar Duarte the edge, I'm all good with that. I'm not going to complain one bit. All good with the scorecards. Here's what I want to say about Kenneth Sims Jr., though, before I get to Oscar Duarte. He will be back. Listen, this is the guy that went out there, had a great performance against Oscar Duarte, who has a legitimate chance of becoming a world champion in the near future. There should be no shame in that. Absolutely none. Kenneth Sims Jr. has plenty of good fights, including one I've heard rumored throwing out there, Frank Martin. That would be one heck of a fight to make. But the point is, he will be back having big fights again in the future, and he was very, very, very impressive in that performance. But I have to just go over and talk about Oscar Duarte. Listen, this is a guy who has lost to Ryan Garcia. He's been on high platforms prior in his career, and he lost to Ryan Garcia. It is what it is. Oscar Duarte has come to a position where he has rebuilt himself up and got himself into a position where he deserves a world championship shot next at 140. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. His next fight should be for a world championship and a world championship only. He went up against a guy in Kenneth Sims Jr. who I believe had debatably his best performance of his entire career. Kenneth Sims Jr. was phenomenal that night. And yet the winner that night was Oscar Duarte, who also performed masterfully. Obviously, both him and Kenneth Sims Jr. connected on a very similar ratio, but Duarte was extremely active. He was on the attack the entire fight, had a beautiful performance, and I believe has now set himself up for a world championship shot at 140. This fight was listed as a WBA super lightweight title eliminator, whether or not it's with the WBA or another body. Oscar Duarte needs to fight for a world championship next. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. He has paid his dues, he's earned his way up, he's climbed the ladder once again, and he is in position to fight for a world championship, and I'm ecstatic for that. Because Oscar Duarte is a very entertaining fighter to watch, he has paid his dues, and he's a great fighter who I firmly do believe has a legitimate chance at holding that belt in the near future as a world champion. He is a legitimate fighter, a legitimate contender, and I believe a future world champion very, very shortly at 140. Beautiful performance by Oscar Duarte. Let's go over some other notable fights. Co-main event, Regis Prograis, Joseph Diaz Jr., unanimous decision, all in favor of Regis Prograis. All right. What a fight. Now, I looked through my list. I'm not going to call it fight of the year. That's Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Ben. I'm listing it right there. Taraji Akui, phenomenal fight as well. You have the Pitbull fight. There's a couple other fights, but this is just solidified right up in the top fights of the year candidates. What a battle. And I am shocked by that. When I was previewing this fight, this was a battle of two guys who were in must-win situations. The loser of this fight was going to be in a tough predicament because both guys have accomplished great things in their careers, but Father Time catches up. They've lost a lot of fights in recent years, and now they're in a position where the person in that fight had to go out there and win. And the loser was going to be put in a very tough predicament. Somehow, these two guys managed to go out there and have a performance where I think both guys actually elevated their stock. The biggest thing to put out there is that Regis Prograis and Jojo Diaz could very easily go out there and have a big rematch in the future. This is a fight that I think fans want to go out there and see. As I just said, a possible fight of the year contender. Nobody expected to see that from both guys. Prograis was getting hurt, wobbled constantly, right out the gate, even going all the way to the very first round, and he was stuck. I think it would be about 3 or 4 times you could see his knees buckle. Then Jojo Diaz, bleeding the entire fight after the clash of heads. All the different stuff was going down, and yet they went on and put on a war for us. Masterful performance by both guys. Absolutely fun, very entertaining fight. Both guys deserve the credit for that fight. And for Prograis, listen, I don't think he's going to be a world champion again. I know that's the mindset. I know that's the confidence. I get it. Nothing against Regis Prograis for wanting a world championship. Nothing against that. But his footwork is not good. I don't think he's going to be able to go out there and fight against the top guys. And I feel like for him, just go make big fights happen. I know Kermel Moten was out there speaking, saying he would want to go fight one of the guys. Not sure if that's legitimate or not. But listen, if you are going to be Regis Prograis, go out there and get a good money fight. This fight just elevated your stock to probably the highest it will ever be again. And I think you should go take full advantage of that. If that's a rematch with Jojo Diaz, a big fight against a young prospect, a middle-of-the-pack contender, whatever it is, get the biggest bag and then take that fight and go out if you really want to. But hats off to both guys. Very entertaining fight. Tristan Kalkreuth defeats Devonte Williams, second round TKO, corner retirement. Okay. Kalkreuth is a legitimate guy. I love this man. He is a guy that, okay, first and foremost, I love him as a person. He's a great, great person. Man of God, those things, so on and so forth. But let's talk boxing right now. This is a guy that had a phenomenal performance. He has 1 loss on his record. He's bounced back. He is, and I'd be pretty confident saying this, the best prospect from America at the cruiserweight division. I love what I see from him. This is a guy that has a legitimate chance to be a big-time threat at cruiserweight and, quite frankly, eventually maybe even heavyweight. He was on the show before. He hinted at that. I could legitimately see him being a threat at heavyweight in the future. I know that's going to be a couple years down the road, whatever it might be, but he's got a chance to be that guy. So keep an eye on him. But what I will say about the fight, what a bizarre ending. I mean, Kalkreuth goes out there, lays the guy out, great shot. It seems like the fight's over. I think everybody thought the fight was over. Devonte Williams was not moving really well. It seemed like the fight was going to be over. For some reason, the ref decides to give him like 20 seconds to recover. Corner ends up stopping the fight, so that happens. But the funny thing is that in the midst of this, Tristan Kalkreuth is over there doing a backflip as the fight's still going on and his man's on the ground. One of the most bizarre scenes I've seen this year in boxing. Hilarious scene, but let's just get it. Let's put the facts out there. Tristan Kalkreuth, beautiful performance. This is a man that we have to keep our eyes on in America for the cruiserweight division and future-wise, heavyweight division. You know who else we need to keep an eye on in the heavyweight division in America? Joshua Edwards. How many times do I have to make this clear? Joshua Edwards has a legitimate chance to be the future of the American heavyweight division. I love what I'm seeing from this man. It's still very early on. We have a lot of stuff we have to go out there still wait and see what he's going to bring to the table. But I am a big fan of what I'm witnessing right now in Joshua Edwards. This man has skill set. He's got power. He's fun to watch. He's got a lot of signs. Now, he's got to prove himself against some better competition, so on and so forth. But the early signs for this being his debut year, I like what I see. And it's too early to say right now, but I do think we have a chance to possibly have Joshua Edwards be the next rising star in American heavyweight boxing scene. Light heavyweight, Yair Gallardo, he comes out, defeats Quinton Rankin via unanimous decision. Great performance by him. Dominated the fight start to finish. Don't need to go too in depth on that one. Albert Gonzalez moved to 14-0 this weekend by defeating Angel Antonio Contreras. Beautiful performance by Albert Gonzalez. Chop, had a great fight in this fight. And let me make this clear. Keep your eye on him. He has the full package. This is a guy that I believe in a couple of years, we're going to be looking at saying, hey, he's got a legitimate chance to be one of the top guys, the biggest names in this scene right now in this weight class. Just be patient with him. He's going to have to continue to develop, but he's quickly rising and somebody I'm a big fan of. All right. Heading over into some boxing news, I'm going to check real quick, see if we have any comments to address on today's show. Nothing right now. If you guys do have any comments, leave it in the chat, and I will address that on today's show. With that being said, though, let's hop into some boxing news. Floyd Schofield Jr., Kid Austin, he says his ring return will be in November, and it will be a bigger fight than his last fight. I like what I'm hearing there. Tevin Farmer was a great step-up fight for him, and he took care of business. I'll go back. I reflect on that fight. And I remember going into it, I was like, okay, Floyd Schofield, I think, is going to win this fight. But Tevin Farmer's going to push him. No, Floyd Schofield made a mark on that fight, made a dominant performance, and I think he made a statement to everybody that this man is legit. This man's a legitimate threat. He's going to be a future world champion, possibly in the future, I should say. Now, I don't know if Shakur Stevenson's the fight to make here. If he fights Shakur, he's not winning that fight. But there are big fights to make. 135 is a very happening division right now. Lots of big names. I'm excited to see what he's going to say there because there's a lot of good names he can make there. If it's going to be someone like Williams Zepeda, who I would like to see him fight, that would be huge for himself. I think he beats Zepeda quite easily, actually, but we'll see what happens there. Oscar De La Hoya. Now, before I elaborate on this statement, remember last week, Oscar De La Hoya, Ryan Garcia are on rocky terms again. Ryan Garcia makes it pretty clear that he's moving on from Oscar De La Hoya. All right. He seems to just kind of brush past that. Here's what Oscar De La Hoya says in regards to his next fight. He says that he does not want to make a rematch between Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. The first fight was a dull fight. The first fight wasn't that entertaining. The first fight wasn't a big deal. I believe there's other opponents out there for Ryan. There's other big fights we can make with the likes of Teofimo and other fighters out there. Okay. I'm not against what he says there. Not at all. And I agree with him. That first fight sucked. Straight up. No other way to put it. That fight was horrible. Horrible main event. Horrible way to cap off the Times Square card. Just horrible fight. Rolly Romero did his job. He was fun. He did his job great. Ryan Garcia sucked in that fight. We all know that. All right. Here's the deal, though. As a fighter, you always want to get your get back. Ryan Garcia was not right that night. Whether that be whatever it is, he was not right. As a fighter, and Oscar De La Hoya should know this, Ryan Garcia should want his get back. Ryan Garcia has more God-gifted ability than Rolly Romero does have. And Ryan Garcia should have won that first fight, and his mindset should be, I can go beat Rolly Romero. That should be the mindset of Ryan Garcia. So if you're Garcia, I don't fault the man. He should want that rematch and get back. And it makes the most sense. But this is a business. This stuff right here matters. And if you are Oscar De La Hoya, your eyes have to be open to everything on the table. And when he points out the name Teofimo Lopez, I start to think, all right, I get it. I see where he's thinking because Teofimo Lopez has hurt his name and brand quite badly recently, but this would be an entertaining fight. Now, inside the ring, I don't know what it looked like, but I know the build-up process. It's going to get interesting. Two of probably the most loud mouths in all boxing, craziest mouths you could say in all boxing, at a press conference together would be something interesting to see. Probably not appropriate for most people to tune into, and will probably allow them both to possibly get themselves canceled. But let's just be honest. This fight would be able to generate a good amount of money. It would be beneficial for both parties, so we'll see what ends up unfolding there. But I get what Oscar De La Hoya is saying. I also get what Ryan Garcia wants here. We will see what ends up unfolding there, but I'm okay with either route. If it is Rolly Romero or if it is a Teofimo Lopez, also Manny Pacquiao, I get both sides there. Vergil Ortiz Jr. His return is being targeted for October. Oscar De La Hoya of Golden Boy Promotions has said that they're looking at October for Vergil Ortiz Jr. return against somebody obviously in the top 5, 3, or 2. All right, well, 5, 3, or 2, kind of limiting down as we go there. We'll see what happens. But if you're Vergil Ortiz, I get it. I don't think we should be expecting a big fight. I think the rumors of the Xander Zayas fight just don't make a lot of sense. And I think we're going to see him get kind of a tune-up fight first. Not opposed to that. He's coming off an injury, let him build himself up, just as Boots should be doing, and get both guys ready to go fight for World Championship later this year, if not early next year. And then next year, summertime or fall time, we make the big Boots Ennis first Vergil Ortiz fight. That's what I see in store for those guys. Tyson Fury has backtracked on his planned boxing comeback for 2026. Fury stated that he now intends to stay retired and that boxing is a young man's game. Folks, anybody that knows Tyson Fury knows that he is a marketing genius. He knows how to stay in the headlines at all times. What he says out of his lips, you cannot oftentimes believe. And that's just a fact. That's the truth. When Tyson Fury says he retires, you do not need to look at that and think he retired. I don't believe it. When Tyson Fury says he's going to unretire and come back, once again, I don't believe it. And now when he says he's going to go essentially remain retired, once again, I don't believe it. When you're talking about Tyson Fury, this man has mastered how to promote himself, has mastered how to go about the business side of boxing, and always keep people talking about him. It was a couple weeks ago that we were constantly talking about Tyson Fury, the return, who he's looking at, who his hit list is, so on and so forth. Turki Al-Sheikh was talking about him. It went quiet because he wasn't talking for a little bit. And here we go, right back in the headlines again. He is a master at doing that. Whether you like him or not, he has mastered that part of boxing. And so when he says this statement, I still believe he's going to return. I still believe the Anthony Joshua fight will happen. He will be back in the ring. He's not gone for good. Turki Al-Sheikh will bring him back into boxing. So don't get over that. That's just a fact. Johnny Fisher teams up with Sims. Popular British heavyweight Johnny Fisher has announced Tony Sims as his new trainer following his split with Mark Tibbs. Perfect. All right. Mark Tibbs saw a trainer, but listen, if you're Johnny Fisher, you had to make a decision. You just got beat down by Dave Allen, debatably 2 times, but whatever. We know the last time for sure was a definitive one. Johnny Fisher has... Okay, I want to word this the best way. When we look at Johnny Fisher, this is a man that I don't think anybody looks at and says this is a legitimate world title contender. He's a domestic fighter. That is what it is. However, that does not mean that he still doesn't have room to grow. And when you talk about being at the stage of his career where he's coming off a loss to Dave Allen, everything's happening right now to him, getting a little bit of a change in your regimen, getting a little bit of a change to your corner and helping yourself regroup, fix some things, change some things, add some things, subtract some things, whatever it might be, could be critical. Because I think Johnny Fisher can perform better than he has done. I think he's a better fighter than what we saw against Dave Allen, or he has the potential to be. And so if you're looking at the situation, I respect Tony Sims a ton. I think he's a phenomenal trainer. He's done great work with fighters throughout his career. He's continuing to do so. I think that Johnny Fisher getting in with that camp right there is going to do wonders for him. Now, as I said, I'm not going to hype this man up and say, hey, this is the next big British heavyweight contender or something like that. No, this is a man that's going to be a domestic scene, not on the world scene. I know he's still ranked somehow, some way, but he's not on that type of scale yet. But he has a chance to be a big threat on the British domestic scene. And I think Tony Sims will be a perfect group together right there. Keith Thurman versus Vergil Ortiz and Frank Martin versus Arnold Barboza are in the works for a date in October. It will be a PBC versus Golden Boy promotions event if all is finalized. Interesting. I just was talking about Vergil Ortiz, and this makes a lot more sense. If you're Vergil, you're not going to come back against a top-ranked guy. You got to get the hand healthy. You got to get yourself ready to go again, all right? Keith Thurman's perfect. A big name, sell a lot of tickets. Keith Thurman would get smoked by Vergil Ortiz, but also is going to get he's got a lot of experience. Obviously, has had a great career. Would be a good final opponent for Vergil Ortiz to go out there and fight. I love that matchmaking. I think it makes sense for both guys. A nice paycheck for Keith Thurman. Likely his last big fight of his career. And then the Frank Martin Arnold Barboza fight. First and foremost, where has Frank Martin been for all this time? Who knows? But to see him back fighting again would be huge. I think he's a fun fighter. He should have capitalized off the name and image that grew skyrocket off the Tank Davis fight, but he hasn't really done that. Arnold Barboza is an interesting fight coming off a bad performance. We'll see how that fight ends up going right there, but I do like that co-main event right there. Joshua Padley will clash with former British and Commonwealth super featherweight champion Reece Bellotti on the Alan Makhmadov card on October 11th at the Ultima Arena in Sheffield, UK. All right. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Reece Bellotti is a good fighter, a very entertaining fighter, but he's coming off of getting his butt whooped against Ryan Gardner. Why is he turning around this quickly to go out there and fight again? Ryan Gardner essentially took no damage. He's not planning on no fights anytime soon. Why is Reece Bellotti already have a fight locked in with Josh Padley? I don't like it. Horrible matchmaking here. I feel like he's just being thrown into the fire. Josh Padley's going to get an easy opponent because, listen, Reece Bellotti's older. He's already taken a lot of beating in his career. He's going to go right into another fight. I don't like the sound of this at all. Josh Padley, give him the win. He's going to easily win this fight, and he should at least win this fight. It sets himself up for a bigger one. But for Reece Bellotti, this is like career suicide. This is just asking for more brain damage. Why are you going into situations? This is not right. I don't like the situation. I don't like the matchmaking. If this were prior to the Ryan Gardner fight, fine. But with where Reece Bellotti is right now, coming off the loss he just had against Ryan Gardner, this fight makes no sense whatsoever. I don't like it. Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a 50-50 chance of happening. Eddie Hearn has told The Ring following a meeting with MVP co-founder Nikisa Bidarian. This fight has been rumored for a while now. It now appears that both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua has a legitimate chance of being made, where it's even now been listed at a 50-50 chance that this fight happens. And what I have already said before, and made this very clear, if Jake Paul steps foot in the ring with Anthony Joshua at the heavyweight division, I would give him respect. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. That takes a lot of courage to do just that. And I will respect Jake Paul for doing that move right there. On the flip side of this, let me talk from a moral standpoint. Let me talk from a career standpoint. Yes, the money is there, but the health risks are not worth it. When I talk about the potential outcome of Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul stepping foot in a ring together, the ripple effects of what could happen to Jake Paul in that ring are devastating. We have to remember what happened to Francis Ngannou, who is a legitimate heavyweight, a man that has taken many great punches in his career and has been built. Obviously, he's not a complete boxer, but has been built to take punches. We saw what we witnessed at Riyadh's season fight card against Anthony Joshua last year. Jake Paul does not have anywhere near the punch resistance or the heavyweight acumen or have the body of Francis Ngannou. The things that could possibly happen to Jake Paul are legitimately scary. And I'm just going to put that out there. This seems like too big of a risk. And I understood that these two guys might be making these fight talks to build up their name and bolster themselves for another fight. But Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua is a scary situation. And I know the money will be massive. But if you're Jake Paul, you have to seriously look at this because at the end of the day, you're good financially. You don't need boxing for a living. And yes, you will gain respect. But are the health risks really worth it? Because let's just be honest, Jake Paul is not beating Anthony Joshua. No ifs, ands, and buts. It would take an absolute KO miracle if that's even possible for it to happen. But what's most likely going to happen is that Anthony Joshua will knock the lights out of Jake Paul in a devastating way. And I don't feel like that's something that we should all go out there and witness, or at least Jake Paul should want to witness and experience. So if this fight is being looked at right now seriously, I think you do have to look at it from a more moral standpoint. And I feel like this confidence could be getting too high for Jake Paul to go into the situation. Against anybody at the cruiserweight division not named Jaya Pataya, fine. I can get him one to challenge those guys. But a guy like Anthony Joshua, who is one of the dominant guys of this generation of the heavyweight division, is a interesting move, a bold move, courageous move, but a very risky move if you are Jake Paul. Let's go into the final topic for today's show. Huge news. Lester Martinez and Christian-Mbilli clash is being finalized for the Canelo-Crawford undercard. All right, that's what I'm talking about. I expect over the duration of the next couple of weeks, we should have the undercard announced for Canelo-Crawford. With that being said, we're looking at it as being only about 6 weeks out from that fight happening. One of the most exciting fights of the year, one of the biggest fights that we've seen in boxing in a very, very long time. We are very quickly approaching that fight day, and we don't have a lot of news. We know some guys that will probably be on that card, but we do not have the undercard yet, and I do expect it will be coming out in the near future. What we have heard rumors of today, Lester Martinez, Christian-Mbilli clashing on the undercard, incredible fight. This honestly is so perfect for so many reasons. When Turki Al-Sheikh said that he's not going to stack the undercard, I was in full agreement with that. Use this mega platform to boost the name, image, and brand of all these different boxers that just don't have the opportunity to have stardom yet. Whether that be promotional reasons, that be brand reasons, whatever it is. Give these guys opportunities. Christian-Mbilli, Lester Martinez are two great guys that true boxing fans love watching, are very entertaining, and have star power, but have been limited for one reason or another from actually capitalizing on those abilities and becoming a big name boxer. This is the opportunity that both guys have been seeking and looking for, and I think Turki Al-Sheikh has a chance to give it to them, and this would be a perfect co-main or third-up fight, whatever it is. I hope this fight does get made, and I think it would be an absolutely phenomenal fight if it actually does come to fruition. So that's in the rumors right there. Hopefully we do get more clarification on what the undercard looks like in the coming days, or at least the next week or so. But with that being said, I don't see any more comments remaining. So I appreciate you guys all for tuning in today's show. I hope you guys did have a great weekend this past weekend, by the way. And I hope you guys have had a great Monday or Tuesday, whenever you guys listen to the show. I will be back live on Tuesday, tomorrow, at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with Bruce Carrington. So make sure to tune into that show. You guys do not want to miss it. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your guys this Monday. I will see you guys back tomorrow. May God bless you guys all. And with that being said, SchuZ out. I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless you guys.